This race is in Altenberg, Germany. We've got the men's singles competition dominated by the Germans and Austrians. Felix Lach, a 52-time World Cup winner, currently sits in third place. Then it's the current World Cup points leader and two-time race champion, Nico Gleicher. He's in second. But Max Langenhahn, the two-time defending World Cup overall champion and the world champion on this track last year, looked stellar in run number one. No mistakes, great speed, the result being the lead after the first of two heats here in the men's singles competition. Hi again, everyone. I'm Tim Singer. Welcome to the closest, biggest secret in the history of luge, this track here outside of Dresden, as I bring in my co-commentator from Team Ireland, Elsa Desmond. Elsa, they built this track in the early 1980s, and no one else around the world even knew about it, did they?
No, I think it was initially built to mimic one of the other tracks. It may have been Calgary, but it is a track that's been being used now for a long time on the international circuit. It is one of the tracks that we race every season. But yeah, initially it was built by the East Germans secretively, which is why it's in the middle of nowhere.
It's a fun track as you see these long-standing records by Rapilov and Ludwig, one retired, one currently not racing on the World Cup. Those records are at least 8 years old. As we take a closer look at this track, one interesting feature when I first came here in the 1990s, they had a chairlift down at the finish area that brought bobsleds back up to the start. Love to see more of that around the world. That'd be cool.
Absolutely. Oberhof obviously has the chairlift going over it, but it is nothing to do with us.
That's right, and Eagles has one right alongside the track. This is a great track, and it yielded some pretty challenging sliding in run number one, including a couple of crashes.
It's certainly been an interesting race here so far. Just looking at this POV, this is a very technical track. It's also quite a high pressure track. If you get the early entrances, the pressures aren't too bad, but any late entrances and the athletes certainly feel it on the neck. And you can just keep an eye on this pressure gauge on the left-hand side and you'll see exactly what I mean. Coming through this top section, we get to the first tricky section, which is this omega curve. We saw a lot of people hitting early into this, and some bigger problems through the lower ranked athletes here. Coming past the double start now into curve 7, 8, 9. 9, a big problem for the lower starts, but not such a big problem today for the men, although we have seen a few people having some little issues out of there. Kreisel, again, it's one of these Kreisels you can loop as long as the height's in the right place and you get that lucky loop, as people say. And then this tricky section, 11, 12, no one has flipped there yet today, but it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. 13, into this 14, this uphill section, we've seen a lot of people having problems there today, a lot of people having hits and a lot of people losing time. And then into these big section, these big corners at the bottom.
Of note, Wolfgang Kindl, a world champion and Olympic medalist, had a pretty spectacular crash down in curve number 15, high on that top wall. He is okay, but he's disqualified from this competition. Max Langenhahn was the fastest. As a result, as always, he will be the last to go. But up first, we'll check out this starting list in just a second. There it is, Johnny Gustafsson, who came down in 20th place with lots of sleds remaining in run number one, but held that spot. He'll lead things off. David Gleicher had a little bit of a problem. He'll start 7th. Dominic Fischnaller in 17th, looking for his first podium of the year. Alex Ferlazzo of Australia. Earlier today, Austria captured gold in the women's doubles competition. Zelina Egla and Lara Kipp winning for the 4th week in a row. Now Johnny Gustafsson grabbing those handles for the United States, 27 years old, a native of northern New York, in fact, very close to the Canadian border, one bridge away across the St. Lawrence River. He began the sport at age 11, and he had a little bit of an issue keeping that straight line on the settle.
Yeah, a little tap of that left wall there when he was lying down. Any issue at the start really costs you time, particularly on tracks where the start isn't as steep. Through this tricky omega curve. After that start, he seems to have managed to relax. He's putting together relatively clean lines. Nice early entrance into curve 9. And looking really good down that straight.
Johnny had a 5th place finish earlier this season to open up the year in Lillehammer, Norway. He'll have a lot to do to try to catch teammate Tucker West this weekend and try to make it into the team relay. Little correction there, but nothing major.
Yeah, some problems out of curve 14. Very consistent with what we've been seeing in the first run. A lot of athletes having problems there.
Happy birthday, Joanne!
And again, a shout out to his mother there. Happy birthday to her.
Johnny Gustafson done for the day. It will be a top 20. If he moves up a spot or two, that wouldn't be a surprise as well.
This is just that problem on the start. Nicking that left wall. Did well to keep off the right wall.
Im zweiten Durchgang in umgekehrter Reihenfolge entsprechend des Ergebnisses. Der ersten Lauf ist also der beste des ersten Laufs.
A sigh of relief, but a soul analysis that could be better. Speaking of analysis, Johnny will be on the microphone tomorrow to help me announce the women's singles competition. Now we have Josef Ninnis, second to go, 19th place after run number 1. Josef, if he qualifies for the Olympics next year, Elsa will be a 6-time Olympian at 44 years young.
That's amazing. Slovakia don't have, big problems there coming into the Omega corner. Slovakia do not have a team relay. They don't have a singles woman or a women's double. They do have a junior women's double, which I believe may be coming up next year, but they still won't have a women's single. So they will not be able to get into the Olympics using those rules for the team relays. So Slovakia will be amongst the teams competing for those probably 4 or 5 spots that are open to athletes without a team relay. Not the cleanest run here. Problems there coming out of 14. Late into 16. Big problems in this bottom section.
A lot of skidding down to the finish. Second place out of 2 for Josef Ninnis. And for those of you just joining us, I am told we had a few internet issues here out of Altenberg in the early going. Some of you were getting the feed, others were not. Hopefully you are all now watching the live action. Shrug of the shoulder, and Elsa not 1 thumb down, but 2 thumbs down.
Yeah, not the run he was going to be hoping for there. An athlete with so much experience that is able to do this track so cleanly. Some big problems in the bottom section is definitely not what he'd have wanted to see.
36-year-old Andrei Manzi from Kremenets, Ukraine. And when Ukraine won that podium position last week at the team relay in Sigulda, they interviewed Andrei, and he was very humble, Elsa. He said, "Sir, we're thrilled, we're happy to be on the podium, but we know how we got there. Other teams just failed to finish." And he also was quick to point out that there is ongoing drama in his country, and he and his teammates never have that far from their minds.
Absolutely. These athletes do so incredibly well to overcome the mental challenges that they have and be able to produce good results week in, week out. And to be able to produce that medal, regardless of whether it was because of people crashed or not, they were the ones that made it down 3rd. Putting together a pretty clean run here. He has dropped into the red. Johnny, we saw in the first run finishing 20th because he had some really significant problems. So it wouldn't surprise me if he stays in the green for a little while here.
Yes, if you look at the split times, Johnny has the ability to take it right up to Leon. And then you have David Gleicher and Tucker West. So that could be where the ride up the elevator ends, but we'll see. Again, that red flag, we talked about it, Lisa Schulte and I, earlier today during the women's doubles competition. That's an indication for you, the athletes, right?
Yeah, so this is one of the Kreisels where it's very important where you have the height. You need the height towards the end of that Kreisel and the right point to drive out, and that flag is an indicator for the athletes of where they need to be high, and it's more a safety thing than anything else so that they can orientate themselves and know where they need to be in the track.
Svante Koala has had good results, several top 20s this season, even going back to last year. Svante, 26 years old. He's from the island of Lustero, not far from Stockholm. And if you think it's odd that he lives on an island, you need to know that Sweden, trivia for you, Elsa, has more islands than any country in the world.
I very luckily have been to that island to visit the Swedish athletes in summer, and it's incredibly beautiful. They have a really great outdoor gym facility that they train on all summer, and it's really helped Svante over the last few years. Getting into those Nations Cups medals, it's been fantastic to see for him. Not putting together the cleanest run, he's had some mistakes here. Again, seeing these problems out of 14. Not the run he'd have wanted to produce here today. Just some problems there down in the bottom section.
Johnny picks off another, as Svante is in third place, part of a big luging family in Sweden. His sister is a competitor. His cousin has competed on the World Cup. His mother is a race official at some of the events.
And their father, Hasse, is their coach here. Just some problems here out of 14, hitting that right wall, too much rightward pressure. All of that's going to cost him time. You can hear the men saying they're not sure what's going on there. Everyone's having problems. This isn't what we've seen in training. Generally, people have been having some more consistency than this. I think it's partly the change in the ice conditions, but potentially they've changed the profiling of some of these corners.
Alex Gufla, one of 4 Italians to qualify for today's race, 3 of whom made it into run number 2. Gufla in 16th place after the first heat. He has an advantage of only about 0.06 of a second over the American Gustafsson, who took the lead to start this run and has held on. Of course, Luge is 2 heats, combined time competition. Cumulative clock, the 2 runs.
Absolutely, unlike some sports where they use the best run. And we see that in the Olympics when you have the 4-run cumulative time. A big skid in the top section there, but he is still in the green, and he's dropped back into the red. Really pressing that head back. Fantastic form down that straight for him. No major...
Sound is... Our audio is doing such a great job. It's a great sound of the sleds, but it is tough to tell who's skidding and who's not from the sound. You can see it, of course.
Yeah, no, there was a skid in that top section, but it's been pretty clean after, managing to come down in second. Just shows what a fantastic run Johnny was able to put down in this second heat.
Johnny getting a lot of time in that leader's box. Maybe he needed to secure an additional sponsor before today's race if he knew he was going to be riding the elevator so long.
That was just that little skid in the top section on the entrance to that corner. And coming into curve 9.
All right, moving along now with teammate of Alex Gufla. This is athlete representative to the executive board of the International Luge Federation, Leon Felderer, former natural track athlete from northern Italy. Now makes his home in Latsfons. Finished 8th here on this track at the World Championship last year. A very good result for the Italian.
And Leon obviously frequently in the booth with you, Tim, commentating.
Indeed, one of our regulars.
He's in the green here at the moment, 2.5 tenths up. Keeping it nice and clean here, looking really relaxed on the sled. Great form there on the exit of 9. As we said in the first round, the Italians haven't been producing the results they'd necessarily have liked this season, so he'll definitely be looking to keep it clean. Little clip of that right wall on the entrance to 13. Again, some problems there out of 14. Everyone's having problems in that section here today.
But that 2300s advantage should hold on for Leon. He loses about half of it at the bottom. But as projected, he becomes the first to finally overtaken the American Johnny Gustafsson as Leon moves into the lead, although top 10 will be very hard-pressed.
Just looking so clean out of this curve 9. Exactly what you want to see. Nice and relaxed. Head back. Good line. And he seems pretty happy down at the finish. Or relieved, maybe.
Leon will, yes, and he'll sit back and root for his teammate Dominic Fischnaller, his teammate and his mentor, see if Dominic can sneak onto the podium a little later on in the run. Here's David Gleicher. Gleicher's first ever World Cup victory came, incidentally, after his Olympic gold medal, and it was here in Altenberg, but this is literally a case of love-hate, as Gleicher's had some great results here, including a podium last year in the World Cup and a victory in the World Cup sprint. But he's had a lot of crashes in Altenberg as well and struggled in run number 1.
Altenberg is very much the sort of track where if it's going well, it can go really well, but if it goes wrong, it can go really wrong. And he's been on both sides of that coin. A nice clean exit there of curve 9. Coming into this Kreisel. Looking clean through this 11-12 section. Ooh, big problems there into 13. That will have lost him some time, but I think he might just stay in the green to the finish.
And it gives us our early indication of how nicely these Austrian sleds are running as
everyone shouting out
Johnny
to
and
his
Leon send their birthday greetings to Joanna back in New York State.
Just see how relaxed he was on that sled. He gets this hit here, but he managed it incredibly well, cleaning it up through 13 and coming out of 14 well.
Three-time Olympian Tucker West, the final American to come down this track today. 13th place after run number 1. Tucker claims as his goal for the season to medal at the World Championships in Whistler. That is definitely a possibility. Finished 4th just off of the podium last year at the Worlds, but he has won a World Cup race on the track in Western Canada several years ago. Snowy night in Whistler.
Yeah, Johnny had some problems in his first run, so he'll be looking to clean it up. A little bit of a skid there. And again, little problems through this top section. And he's dropping into the red.
Elsa mentioned Tucker's been battling some injuries. He had the fastest start time, but as you mentioned, now well into the red.
Yeah, just quite a few mistakes high on the end of curve 9 there, some skidding in the top section, just not keeping it as clean as he'd have liked. They're not huge mistakes, but they're all going to be costing him time. Ooh, big problems here out of 14.
This will cost Tucker everything, including a spot in the relay tomorrow, as he ends up in 7th place, 4 positions behind teammate Johnny Gustafson. Unfortunate, disappointing. Tucker was in a good position to be part of the USA team relay. He actually made the relay team last week before not getting a chance to race because of the disqualification of the USA. Really, the woes continue, Elsa.
Yeah, not what he'd have wanted here. Again, this is the height at the end of 9, pushing him to that right wall, and then he had these big problems in the bottom section here, coming through 14. And then he gets this rightward pressure out of 14. I'm wondering if they've changed the profiling from training, because everyone's having problems here.
Yeah, that certainly has been clear. And I may have jumped the gun. Tucker still has a chance for the relay tomorrow. He had the faster first run, and they'll decide that after the race, but we'll continue on with this race. And one of the more interesting stories of the weekend, Noah Callan. Talk about patience being a virtue, Elsa. He has been racing each week on the Nations Cup knowing he could not qualify for the World Cup race. He does qualify this week. He does get his first chance, and he's in 12th place after run number 1.
It's so much racing experience. This is the thing with the Nations Cup. It's so much pressure on one run because you only have one run and you have to do it right. And that's a huge amount of experience he'll have gained through racing in that Nations Cup, even without being able to make it into the World Cup. And now he's putting that experience into play on the World Cup here today.
He's 20 years old, lives in Eben, Austria.
Nice exit there of 14. Nice and clean into that 15. A really nice run here from him.
Third place, just ahead of American Johnny Gustafson. Great showing for Noah Collin. Will be a top 15 in his World Cup debut. And he got his position, we should note, because Jonas Mueller, currently third in the World Cup standings, is not racing this weekend in Austria, or Altenberg. He's back in Austria.
Just staying nice and relaxed there on the set, absorbing those entrances, absorbing those exits.
And Jonas, I know you're watching today in Blue Dent, so we look forward to seeing you next week in Winterberg on the ice and perhaps in the commentary booth. Now we have Anton Dukash, the fastest of the Ukrainians in the first heat. Dukash was in 11th place with a time of 54.800. 29 years old from the city of Lviv.
As we were saying earlier, so great to see such a big team out from Ukraine, but also so fantastic to see that they're going to be coming to North America and Asia this season. They will be doing the whole circuit, which is fantastic to see from this team.
Ukraine really has been a fixture. Even dating back into the Soviet Union days, some of the top Soviet lugers were Ukrainian.
He has dropped behind a little bit late there into curve 9, but manages the exit well. Looking nice here in the Kreisel. He is significantly in the red. I think he will stay in the red behind David. Nice exit there of curve 14. That's exactly what you want to see from him.
Second place time, he kept it close, Elsa, only 500ths in back of the Austrian. A lot of that, of course, was his advantage he took into the run.
Yeah, but he kept it pretty clean. He did what he had to do, and he secured himself that second on the finish.
Getting set now for the top 10 here in Altenberg, Germany. Welcome back to our coverage. Men's singles, run number 2. I'm Tim Singer, along with Team Ireland's Elsa Desmond. Great track here in Altenberg. They rebuilt it for the World Championships last year. This year, they premiered a brand new media center, and it's a regular stop on the World Cup Tour. In 10th place, after run number 1, Latvia's Kaspars Rinks, on his way perhaps to his best result ever on the World Cup.
Yeah, just needs to keep it clean. The Latvians generally have pretty good sled setup. It's something they've worked on a lot over the years. They generally have quite good blinds down this track, so let's see what he can do. Already in the red, 300ths behind. Just shows the amount of speed David was able to get down this track. Just a little bit high on the end of 9 there, but managing it well. Let's see this split coming up here. And he is bleeding time there. He is dropping back. I think he will stay in the red down to this finish. But that does secure Anton a top 10 finish at worst on this race here.
So, Anton Dukash, as you see, still trailing David Gleicher, but a top 10 guaranteed, which is great. And the Latvian fans, as always, very enthusiastic. My apologies, I went away there for a second with some technical issues thousands of miles away from the Altenberg track, but we're back and ready to go with David Nuschler of Germany, 23 years old. His home track is Oberhof.
Not the cleanest start there for him, having to work quite hard to avoid that right wall. No hit of the wall, nothing major, but that might have cost him some small fractions of a second. Again, another athlete here that will have a huge number of runs down this track. He has already dropped into the red, though, behind Nussler.
Right, Elsa.
Sorry, behind
The Germans had a lot of training time here, not only before the season, but during the holiday break.
Absolutely. Keeping it clean there through 11-12. Just a slight tap on the wall before 13 and a big skid into curve 14. And then just problems catching him.
He's staying on the sled, but he's going to crawl across the finish line figuratively. Finish time back in 12th place. That's last place so far here in run number 2.
That was very uncomfortable to watch. He came off the sled. I think he may have injured himself there. He does look uncomfortable.
Has the presence of mind to stop that sled and turn it sideways. We'll see how he is in a moment, but what happened here?
Big skid into curve 14 here, and then just catching him on the end, getting that rightward pressure into the wall on the exit, and then after that it was just a game of survival. Putting his feet down, his shoulders come up a little bit. He looks injured. There might be a small pause here before the next athlete goes, just to get him off the ice safely.
No question about it. This is unfortunate. We've seen a number of crashes here in men's singles. In virtually all of those cases, we've seen the athlete get right up, right out of the track. We'll check up on Nussler for a second. I'm not sure if Alex knows yet he's been iced on this. Someone needs to tell him at the start that there's going to be a pretty lengthy delay. He's got that shield down already.
Yeah, it looks like maybe a shoulder or an arm that he's injured there. There are medics at the track, as we have on all race days, so let's hope they can get to him quickly.
A bit of a silence has come across these luge spectators here. Always happy to be on camera, but concerned about David Nussler, whose home is about 2 hours from Altenberg.
Absolutely. None of us ever want to see an athlete get injured.
Meantime, I was a little surprised to see that shield still down with Alex. Do you think he did not get word?
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's been a bit of a communication problem. He did finish the run, so he will have received a finish time. We generally expect there to be a bit of a pause or a hold when an athlete doesn't finish a run. So when they finished, you sometimes don't know that there's been an accident.
Well, it's good to see that they got David out of the track. We hope he's okay. We'll update his condition in a moment. But here is Alex Ferlazzo looking for his breakout performance of the year on a track where he had a career best top 5 last year at the World Championships.
Alex will also be looking to have a good result going into the World Championships this year. Being in a partnership with Canada, he has quite a bit of experience on that track. So he's now just hoping to build momentum after that slightly inconsistent start that we saw to the season in the pre-Christmas. He's putting together a nice run here so far, safely in the green.
But he's given a lot of his lead, though, away to Gleicher, and now he's in the red.
It's now going to be a question of how far back will he drop. Oh, he's come back into the green there. Oh,
this is
no,
remarkable. Maintaining contact. He will not reach the finish line. That will be a big fat 0 in the World Cup points for Alex, who looks to be okay.
So
and Elsa, he was building a lot of speed down there at the bottom.
He was pressing his head back. He was really going for that in that bottom section. He was just high on the exit of 15, just flipped him out of that corner. And when that happens, there's nothing you can do. It is an uphill in the end of 16 to that finish. We have seen athletes have this problem before, and there's just not enough momentum to make it to the finish line. Oh, just really struggling to find consistency here.
Yeah, and as we look at this slow-mo, we've got a follow-up question, but tell us what happened here.
So he was high on the end of 15, getting that height just flipped him off the end, and once that happens, there's no way you're getting back on that sled.
And one of our viewers, Craig, writes in, Elsa, a question for you, that when an athlete crashes, is it your instinct to hold on to that sled, you know you really want to do that?
I'm not sure it's instinct. I think when we have juniors, a lot of them don't hold on to the sled, but you learn very quickly that you have to. If you're somewhere where where he was, there's an uphill. If you're lying in the track and you haven't got hold of your sled, it can come backwards towards you and you can get more injured. Also, if the sled is going on its own, it can get damaged as well, or it can fly out the track. So we are told to keep hold of our sleds.
Well, race director Soren Schmidl and crew are doing a great job of moving this race along despite the crashes. Here's Timon Grancagnolo, Saxonian from right here in the Altenberg area, 21 years old. Timon having a very consistent, if not spectacular season. He opened up with a 4th place finish, a career best in Lillehammer, and has had 2 other top 10 results on the World Cup.
And again, he's one of the athletes that's had a huge number of runs down this track. Being from this area, he's been sliding this track for a very long time. So he should have it on autopilot. He's just going to be looking to stay relaxed and keep it clean.
When you see an experienced athlete like Alex Palazzo have a crash, same with Wolfgang Kindl, you got to figure everyone's susceptible down here at the bottom.
Yeah, Altenberg is not an easy track, particularly from the men's. But these men, they've been sliding for a long time. They'll have a lot of mental resilience. They'll know that just because other people are crashing doesn't mean they will. And it's keeping that mental resilience and knowing that you can do it even when other people are having mistakes. He's having a nice run here. He's in the green. I think he will stay in the green to the finish.
Timon with cleaner lines and a fast bottom part of the track finally knocks David Gleicher out of the leaders zone. It's Germany out in front. We still have 6 remaining here. 2 of them Germans in run number 2.
Really nice run there from Timon.
Timon having another solid weekend, no worse than top 7. 6 remain, 2 from Latvia, 2 from Germany, an Italian and an Austrian. That's amazing this season. Only 1 Austrian in the top 6 after run number 1. But first we have those Latvians. Gintz Berziņš, a pair of youth Olympic gold medalists getting ready to go back-to-back here for Latvia. Berziņš, 22 years old, from Sigulda.
In the green with a good bit of time over 2/10 to play with here at this top section. But we know that Timon got a lot of time down at the bottom. That's where he got the green over the Austrians.
Gleicher, yeah. But the Latvians have been very fast all day long. Women's doubles and men's singles as fast as we've seen them all year on the lower parts of the track.
Absolutely, and so far in these splits, he is holding his time at around 2/10, just working quite hard out of that exit of 14 there, but keeping it clean and off the walls. I think he will stay in the green here.
He held the exact same split advantage from the last 2 stops of the clock. He looks frustrated, but as you mentioned, Elsa, he did a great job making a quick correction. I believe that was in the 11-12 or 12-13 straightaway.
Yeah, coming out of 14, he did drop his feet a little bit. I'm not sure if he actually touched the ice with his feet. We can see it here on the replay. Just dropping those feet there a little bit, touching the ice. That will have cost him a very small amount of time, but he did really well to keep it a lot cleaner than a lot of the athletes that we've seen. Anton Dukac currently sitting there in 4th, guaranteeing himself at least a 9th place finish. A great result for him.
Absolutely. And now Krister Zapriots, his advantage over his teammate after run number 1 was just 1/1000th of a second. So this will be a little fun battle between the 2 Latvians, hoping to end up in the top 5 and looking to get into the team relay tomorrow.
Absolutely, and Krister's with such a small margin over Gintz. Ooh, problems there already. When we're working with these tiny margins, you really need to keep it incredibly clean from top to bottom. He is gaining time in the splits here. Nice exit there of curve 9, really pressing that head back, keeping it at about 500ths ahead.
Christer Zapriot's coming off of a season best second place finish last week at home in Segula. He has 5 World Cup victories in his career.
And see, this is where his teammate had those small problems. He's kept it much cleaner through that bottom section. I think he will gain some time on here at the finish.
And he does. He gains a lot of time, Elsa.
You can just see how those small mistakes, that's what Gintz was upset about, those small mistakes, but they do cost a lot of time. A really nice run there from him. And great to see that crowd growing as we get towards the final sleds.
Now to our top 4, Italy, Dominik Wischnaller. The Olympic bronze medalist had probably his best run of the season in the first heat here with perfect lines. Dominik is sitting back in 8th place in the World Cup standings. That's unusual for him, but he's had top 10s in every race. Let's see if he can have his podium breakout, give Italy its first podium in singles this season.
An athlete that we know he can perform under pressure, we know he can be consistent with these clean lines, so we just need to see him do what we know he can do and see if he can get himself that first singles medal. Beautiful line there out of curve 9, really pressing that head back.
Opening up a nice lead over the Latvians here, Italy's Dominik Wischnaller.
Let's see how this exit of 14 looks. Lovely line there. Nice and clean to the finish.
Interestingly, he's lost a little bit of that advantage, but he'll have plenty in the bank. He'll hang on by 1800ths of a second. Dominik Wischnaller, the lines were as perfect as anything we've seen all day, Elsa, but will the speed be enough to pick off one of the Germans or Austrians still to come?
Felix was 1/10 ahead of him going into this run, so whether that will be enough at the finish, I'm not sure. He seems happy.
That's a big thumbs up from Dominik Wischnaller. Definitely his best race of the season, irrespective of whether or not he ends up on the podium. But here is the 52-time World Cup winner, 2-time Olympic gold medalist, Felix Roch. The Bavarian has 1 podium this year, a 3rd place finish.
Oh, we seem to have just lost 10 there. Felix having a nice run here so far. Keeping it clean through this top section. He is in the green. As I said, he had 1/10 on the start over Dominik. And he has lost some of that time.
700 is the advantage right now. This next split clock, Elsa, will be very telling.
Beautiful form there out of curve 9, really pressing that head back.
He's opened it up a little bit. This should be a podium.
He just needs to keep it clean in that bottom section. Let's see how this exit of 14 looks. Really clean there. And this will guarantee him a medal.
Nicely done, Felix Roch. Fastest time of the second run, so he did it with an exclamation point. Felix Roch on the podium to the delight of the German spectators at the finish here in Altenberg.
And always great for the Germans to be getting medals in front of a home crowd. You can just hear how much it means to those spectators. Really nice, clean run here from him. Beautiful exit of curve 9, and just look at that form on the sled.
Now, if you look at those split times, Elsa, Nico's got about 700ths on Felix. So we just saw a great run by Felix Locke. Nico needs to be perfect here.
He does, but we know he can be.
He's been about as perfect as anyone all season. Nico Gleischer getting ready at the top. As fist bumps all around for Felix Locke and company. Will it be an Austrian victory or a German victory this week on the World Cup? Nico started the season with a 7th place finish, but has come back in the past 3 weeks with a 1st, a 2nd, and an unlikely or surprising 1st place in Sigulda. He has a 60-point lead in the World Cup standings.
400ths ahead at this split. Having a nice top section here so far. Let's see what this next split shows. He has gained some time, up to 600ths ahead. We saw Felix having a very fast bottom section, but we know he can as well. Ooh! And that's probably the medal bond for him. Problems there out of curve 9. Such
Nico
a shame.
Gleischer has just handed the race to Germany. Germany will win this World Cup competition. How many places back will Nico Gleischer fall?
I think
He's cleaned it up a bit here.
He will be outside the top 5 for sure. Big problems out of that curve 9, just costing him everything.
4th place right now, a fist pump by Dominic Fischneller as the Italian gives his nation its first podium of the season in singles or doubles. Felix Locke 1 place away from World Cup victory number 53. And Nico Gleischer with a rare disappointing run on this very strong season for him.
So now the question is, will it be Felix or will it be Max? If you were a betting man, Tim, which would you say?
I'm going to go with Max, although we should say Max broke his right foot about a week ago. He's been sliding and still sliding very respectively with a pretty serious injury. We've seen over the years athletes end up on the podium despite broken feet. But we'll know in the next 52 seconds. Here he is, the 2-time defending World Cup champion. And as you see on the bib, Max Langenhahn captured the world title here in Altenberg last season. He's very comfortable on this track.
Some little problems on the start there. It looked like he dropped his feet. He came into this run with 1700ths over Felix. It's dropped down to 1200ths now. Let's see what this next split shows. He is losing time. He's down to 1100ths on Felix, but he is keeping this line very clean, looking very relaxed on the sled, and a nice line out of there.
Terrific transition from 9.
Looking nice and relaxed through that 11-12 section, into 13-14, and very clean there. He's gaining some time, back up to 1500ths. It's his race to lose now.
It will be a 1-2 Germany finish with Max Langenhahn capturing his 2nd race of the year. His mentor, Felix Locke, ends up in 2nd. Italy also on the podium in 3rd place, with Latvia and Austria rounding out the top 5. Spectacular performance by Max. Also, will this set him up for a 2nd half from the Max Langenhahn we've seen in the past?
I mean, we're coming into a string of German tracks now. We've got Wintersport next week, then we've got Oberhof. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him carrying this momentum through into the next couple of weeks. But as you said, he is fighting an injury. You never know what's going to happen in this sport, but I expect to see him coming into this form in the German tracks.
Coach Torsten and the coaching staff, congratulations all around at the top. A hug from Felix and Max down at the bottom. Felix really has become a mentor to Max Langenhahn, Elsa, and I've said this several times, but Felix was sort of a race on his own kind of guy for many years. It's great to see the two of them team up this season, the last few seasons, really. Germany 1-2, Italy, Latvia, Austria. That's the top 5. Good day for Latvia with 3 in the top 10. As Elsa mentioned, Anton Dukash in the top 10 for Ukraine. That's terrific. Top American is Johnny Gustafsson in 13th place. Sweden in 16th. Unfortunately, a tough go for Australia's Alex Ferlazzo, who I believe, and Elsa set me straight on this, we saw Matias in 20th, but he didn't race in the second run. Alex qualified, crashed. Doesn't he hold the number 20 position?
No, so as things stand, if you crash out in the second run, you will finish in 30th. I'm not sure if that's going to change in the future. I suspect it might, but we saw it last week with one of the Italians in the women's race, and we're seeing it here again with Alex. If you don't finish that second run, then you do drop down into 30th, and everyone below you will move up. As I said, though, I don't think that's the way it's going to be forever. But Alex will guarantee himself, I think, 10 points in the World Cup ranking. Because he qualified from the Nations Cup, he does get points here, even though he DNF'd the race.
Nico holds on to a 5-point lead from Max Langenhahn after finishing 4 spots behind him. Both of them are 2-time winners so far this year out of the 5 races on the World Cup. Look at all of the others. We're now more than halfway through this World Cup season, so you're starting to look at the names that we really will be challenging for that title this year, as they not only make their way to the World Championships in Whistler, but the final 2 World Cup titles, which will be on literally foreign soil on the 2 tracks in Asia where anything can happen. No home track advantage. 3rd place today for Dominik Fischneller. Congratulations to the 1-time World Cup champion who gets his first podium of the year and gives Italy its podium in any race outside of Team Relay. 2nd place, Felix Lach, just 1 position away from locking down his 53rd career World Cup victory. That could still happen over the next couple of weeks in Wintersport and in Oberhof.
Dominik, congratulations on the podium again. First time this season. How do you feel on a quite challenging track?
First of all, thank you. It feels very good to be back on the podium. It was not that easy so far, but I started well last week in Sigulda with a 4th, so keep climbing the ladder. So let's see where it ends.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good attitude from the always calm and reserved Dominik Fischneller, but a sincere smile as a result of his first podium of the season. But it was Germany's day here. Unlike last year's World, the Germans off to a good start this weekend at the World Cup, still awaiting the interviews from Lach and Langenhahn just moments away. Could be that German television has knocked them off here before we get them here on the world feed. Clearing up here in Altenberg. We have the men's doubles competition coming up in under a half hour, so that should be good fast track. All right, I believe the public address announcer has finished his interviews with Max and Felix, so hopefully we'll grab them here in a second down in the finish area. Well, we have this opportunity. We're going to wish Elsa good luck tomorrow in her women's singles race. Our thanks to Elsa Desmond for the great analysis as always. Still hoping to get some interviews as we get another look at the podium shot for the photographers. Max Langenhahn, victory number 2. And for Max, that's his 17th career World Cup win, trailing only Felix Locke in the standings among active men's singles sliders. Well, as we hope to get a couple of more interviews from the top placing Germans, I'm going to sign off for now, but we'll be back with men's doubles in just a few minutes. Sophia Kirkby of Team USA will join me for the call of that race. Don't go too far. It should be a good one. Thanks for joining us. Back soon in Altenberg.